going to call the meeting to order. Would you please stand for the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, let the record show Jeff Jorgensen's out today, otherwise everyone's here. Okay, everybody look the consent agenda over.
Yeah, I just have a question on the permit for the rolling cigars. It looks like it's a 30-day permit request. And the permit that's in here comes from the Iowa Department of Revenue. Is there a similar process that it needs to go through at the county level? Or since it's new, is there nothing required?
I think it's all state.
It came, well, Jenna does those, and it's through the state, and then she runs it by the board for official approval.
Okay, but it doesn't go through the county treasurer and the county sheriff and the county planning and...
Probably for a rolling cigar, maybe not. Cigarette permits, cigarette permits are checked by the treasurer and the zoning. You check cigarette permits, but just alcohol.
Only liquor.
Only the Sunday sales alcohol that go through the treasurer and planning and the sheriff.
Okay.
Cigarette permits do not. Or apparently cigar permits don't either.
I wonder what they're going to do, just test this out for a 30-day permit?
I suppose.
Well, I think the permits are set to expire at the end of June of every year,
Okay.
so he's gonna have to reapply the way it looks.
You probably have to reapply for every event.
Every June, every July 1st, I think. It looks like they run.
Cigarette permits go July 1st for the whole year,
Right.
and they all come in. They're all approved at the first of the fiscal year and run for a year. So maybe that's just until he gets there, and then he'll have to reapply for June for 23, 24.
Okay.
Maybe that's why it's only for
30 days.
12.50.
Yeah, I just wasn't sure how Pioneer Trail fit into it, and it just looked a little unusual in the packet.
It is totally different than what we've been used to.
Okay, so with that discussion, I will make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Okay.
Second.
Okay. A motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone against? Motion carried. Okay. First up, Matt Wyant, Director, or Pam Calstrip. Planning and Development. Second consideration of ordinance number 2023-03. An ordinance to amend the official zoning map of Pottawatomie County, Iowa by changing the district designation of approximately 1.04 acres from a Class A3, that's riverfront and agricultural production, to a Class I1, limited industrial district, and to adopt ordinance number 2023-03 into law. We approved that last week. There was no questions at that. Any questions here?
This isn't a public hearing.
No, we had the public
Second
hearing.
consideration.
We had the public hearing last week. Second consideration doesn't need a public hearing.
Make a motion to approve ordinance 2023-03.
Okay.
I'll second.
Okay, Melvin, will you do a roll call, please?
Chairman Shea,
Aye.
Supervisors Wickman. Aye. Bell.
Aye.
Miller.
Aye.
And Jorgensen is absent.
Okay, thank you. Motion carried. Okay, next up, Underwood City Council request to amend Exhibit A of the forgivable loan or forgivable promissory note agreement between Potawatomi County and the city of Underwood. Amendment requested for discussion and/or decision to add a portion of bike trail between North Street and Fourth Street to Exhibit A. Hi,
Hi.
how are you?
I'm good, how are you?
Good.
Okay, I'm Cindy Sorlene, I'm the city administrative clerk of Underwood, and this is Dave Sturm, the city engineer with Snyder and Associates. So at the last council meeting that was on May 9th, there was discussion about the project and the forgivable loan. And so at that point, they requested, made a motion and moved to come here to request a change. And so instead of doing the restroom, trails, bathroom, and the pickleball court, still do the pickleball court at Trailhead Park, but to do a portion of the trail that's coming through Underwood. And so while we were doing that, the Parks Committee had me reach out to Dave Sturm, the Snyder engineer who's been working on this. We've been working on this since 2019, so we have a right-of-way plat that was done. And so I brought him here just to explain, because we were trying to figure out with the forgivable promissory note along with the city's ARPA funds, because we have till December 31st to obligate where we're going to spend it. If we combined it, what could we do to get done on the trail? The trail is getting closer to Underwood, and we have a better shot now. The October 1st FedRec grant is due, and I'll apply for that again. But I think we have a really good shot of getting it to be able to finish the rest of it. But I think this would really show to the grants, hey, you know what? Potawatomi County agreed, we spent the ARPA monies, we're gonna get a portion of this. Dave Sturm said this is what he thinks we can, I'm gonna have him talk here in just a moment, what we could get done. I think it will really show to them, hey, we do need help getting it done. We put this money in conjunction with Pot County. So that is the request. I'm gonna let Dave speak just a little.
Dave handed us out maps
Okay.
before the meeting, so that was nice.
Yes, so you guys all have a copy of the map that I just gave you. So based on the budget numbers, the funding they have available for this project, we feel like they could get from 4th Street to North Street within the city limits of Underwood. As Cindy said, we already have completed the right-of-way survey of that, so that's all been established. I believe that was 4 years ago that we completed that. The reason we selected that section was we think it's a usable portion of the trail even without a connection to the rest of the railroad highway trail. Because it's in town, it'll connect to sidewalks, side streets. It will be usable throughout the community members. So that's right, why that selection was made. So the request, I guess, is just to switch it to that project, and I would be happy to answer your questions. Again, these documents we provided were preliminary. We haven't designed anything yet. At this point, these were for grant applications that you have submitted and written for. So any questions you guys have?
I'm in favor of it.
Okay.
I really think this trail has been a long time coming, and I think it'll help change these little towns a lot.
Yeah, I agree.
We've seen that in other parts of Iowa, and I'm excited you guys have switched it to the trail.
And I don't know if you're aware of this, but this trail is part of the American Discovery Trail. If you guys are aware of that.
That guy was here the other day.
Yeah. Whenever that gets completed, it's a cross-country trail.
We toured the section, and then we came up through Underwood and looked at what was gonna happen there. So I was with him Thursday, I think it was, and then they had, or Wednesday, one of the days.
Yeah.
And then we had a trail opening down here on First Avenue. So yeah, he's very excited about what's going on here in Pot County.
Yep, big step in getting it connected to Atlantic, the T-bone where it ends. That's one of the biggest gaps
Right.
on the trail. So.
Good.
There's so many grants that we can't get just because of the median salary for Underwood. So we are limited in what grants we can get. So the FedRec trail grant that's due October 1, that's one that we qualify for. I really do believe this will be helpful to get that.
When do you anticipate doing this, Cindy?
Well, I know we have to have done by May 31st, so you guys approve it, we will get on it.
We'll be moving quickly, yeah.
Very quickly.
We have to get it designed and get it out for bid yet this summer, so it can hopefully be constructed this fall and finished up in the spring. So it's got to move fast. We can do that with local funds like this, where we don't have to go through DOT letting process. John knows all about that. So we can move it quicker because of that.
Good. Well,
When would you get to the, G30?
G30 probably with a federal rec trail grant would be the next. This is the in-town portion.
Well,
G30 is south,
G30,
right?
no, but he's copying G30 going out,
It's North Street, right?
that's North Street, that's what we're talking about, is then North Street, then G30.
Oh, this would
road.
take it to North Street.
Right, but that is the connecting G30 Farm to Market Road that goes out to the high school, that goes out to L34. Is that the one, Tim, that you're talking about? Yeah.
Yeah, this would connect it up to North Street, which I guess is G30. I thought G30 was down by.
Well,
West
it
Side.
is, but then
Oh, it's both.
you
Okay.
jaunt across to get connected again. That makes sense. Jaunting. Jaunting. I made a new word.
Okay, no, it's not a new word.
It's not, oh, so it is a word, okay.
Jaunting, yeah, jaunting, yes. What was your last name?
That'll be neat.
Sorling.
any other questions? I'm excited for Underwood.
Well, I'm excited too, and I'm glad that the Parks Committee met after that, and while they were discussing everything, they were like, well, Trailhead Park is a block away and we've got bathrooms there. And there's other things that we're looking into with signage and so forth, but,
We want
I
to get
just-
them right downtown too.
so this, I just think this would be really great for the community, and it would be great to be able to help move the rest of the project forward as well. So respectfully requesting the change.
Need a motion to approve the change.
I'm saying add item 3 to Exhibit A as bike trail between North Street and 4th Street.
Okay,
You can leave the other ones on there if you want to go back to it, you could, but you're,
Originally,
you know you're gonna spend it
I
on that.
put 3rd to 4th Street, because when we first were discussing, we thought that, well, we'd go as far as we could. He's like, I really think we can get to 4th Street, and then I was like, well, let's do 3rd just in case, but we really believe that
I think we can
get to 4th Street.
one of the things that Kevin Bell said the other day was that Washington has a lot of funding right now for trails from throughout the country. And they want to see projects engineered and ready to go. That's a big deal for them, so, for grants.
Good.
So,
We'll get the rest of the designs.
Yeah, we'll have to talk about how we want to do that there.
Right.
good. I get a motion to approve, or whatever you want to do.
I will make a motion to approve the request to amend Exhibit A of the forgivable promissory note agreement between the county and the city of Underwood.
Okay,
Do we need to add anything to that, Mitch, or not?
I'd say it would just be considered project 3 of Exhibit A for the city of Underwood.
Okay,
Consider project 3,
Project 3 of Exhibit A.
exhibit A.
okay, I'd second that.
You might
okay.
get with Jeanette and straighten out that.
Speak
motion.
up.
I was just asking Mitch to make sure he got with Jeanette to get the verbiage correct
Okay,
in the motion.
got a motion and a second to approve the change.
What was that, Bill?
Yeah,
Belt seconded, Miller first. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone against? Motion carried.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much. Really appreciate it.
Cool.
I know, it's exciting. All right, you guys have a good day.
You too. Thanks for coming in, you guys.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, Lee Voss. She's not in today, is she? I know.
I'm here for,
She's not in.
she's not in today.
Discussion under decision to approve tax suspension pursuant to Iowa Code Section 427.9 for property located at 2643 Avenue L, Council Bluffs, Iowa. What,
My question is I don't know a lot of it, but apparently the suspension was lifted and now there's penalty on there, so whatever you want to do about the suspension is fine. If you're gonna put it back on, I need to know what to do with the penalty. If you're gonna leave it, that's fine, I have no.
what they do, did they sell it?
What I understood is it got taken off by mistake.
Oh,
I don't know the whole gist of it. That's what I heard, understood.
There's back taxes due on it.
They have, for 5 years, including this current year.
Yeah, we're talking 12 grand
And then, yeah,
that they
and then
owe.
penalty is now added onto that because of the lift. And the
okay.
penalty and costs are $1,545. So, whatever you do is obviously up to you, but I just need to know what to do with that if you're gonna put it back on.
Well, according to the notice from the Department of Human Services, is they said that their taxes could be delayed, not suspended. So I don't know what that means either. It's the first time I've ever seen that.
I don't know much
Did
on
they just
that
change
either.
their verbiage for some administrative reason? I don't know. Have we had others recently that said delayed instead of suspended?
This is the first one I've ever seen. So, I don't know if time is really of the essence on this thing. I'd like to get a legal opinion on whether.
Matt, do you
where
have
we're at
anything
with it.
for us on this?
Look, I didn't know this was on, so I was just quickly whipping through the code.
Okay.
So, DHS sends the notice out under 427.8, and it talks about that when a person's unable to contribute to the public revenue, that, the Board of Supervisors may order the county treasurer to suspend the collection of the taxes, assessments, interest, costs, fees, penalties, all of that. It doesn't mean, I don't think, that it goes away. It's not an abatement, it's a suspension of collection.
Okay.
And so, and then you look under 427.9, and if they're on, I don't know what the situation is with this particular person. If they're on federal SSI, whatever that, then the board has to suspend them. It's not even discretionary. So there's a may, there's a shall. I don't know which category this is because I haven't seen any paperwork, but regardless, both of those code sections apply to costs, taxes, costs, interest, fees, penalties, all of that. But I don't see anything there about abating it. It just says that you're suspending the collection of those taxes. What that means, I don't know, they continue to accrue and it just goes into, that's sort of my, 2-second review, is that they continue to accrue. They just don't have to pay them while they're under this suspension. I don't know if that's helpful to them or not, because then you end up with a huge tax bill that you can't pay at the end, but that's not really for
Right.
us to worry about, I guess.
Right, once they either pass away or sell the house, those taxes get paid back. And then the penalty starts at the next tax period, whether it be September or March.
Okay.
So yeah, like you said, it's not abated, but.
And we've already got 5 years into it already?
Yes, right.
So it's,
If it was removed and it shouldn't have been, then
That's,
probably those penalties and interest for if that shouldn't have happened, it was just sort of accidental, I would say probably, I don't know that that's up for today. That might be one Tim's thought of getting a delay to look at. It's not a bad idea. But I would tend to say that the suspension of the taxes is something you have to do. But if it was removed if the suspension was removed in error, I would certainly say that you should abate any penalty, interest, et cetera, that was caused by a, clerical error.
that was my assumption too, that it was removed in error. I don't know where it started or how it
Sure.
happened to get removed, but.
The language specifically says, Matt, it says that take this notice to your county board of supervisors to discuss having your property taxes delayed. What does delayed mean?
I can tell you what the letter says, I can only tell you what the code says. I don't really care what DHS puts in the letter, I guess, because they're gonna still
Was that
follow
from
the
a
law.
DHS
Yeah,
letter?
so I'd say that's what, to me, delay, they're just, I'm guessing, honestly, delay sounds better and more accurate to me, because when you hear suspension of taxes, right, I think a lot of people may interpret that their taxes are actually going away. Whereas when it says delay, I think that's actually more accurate. Your taxes are never going away. We're just delaying the collection. It's sort of like student loan payments for kids right now. It's not like those loans, at least as of right now, the loans aren't going away. stay tuned. You know, they're just delaying their payments, you know, so that's sort of how I'm looking at this. Maybe they're just trying to be more clear to the property owner that it's not, your taxes aren't going away. They're just getting stuck in a bucket that you'll have to pay at some point in the future.
So do we want to set this aside for a little more study?
Oh, the only question, I don't know what the payment, what the interest, you know, penalties, any of that is. What's that amount? Do you know?
Right now it's 1,545, that's till the end of May, and each month it goes up.
And that's
But
just
that's just
penalty?
the penalties, that's not even the taxes.
I probably would want to look into, I mean, if it was $50, I'd say just abate it and move on. If it's 1,500, maybe we should look into how that happened, and then you can make a decision about it.
This notice came under that administrative code of, 427.9. For the, is that just?
Well, I mean,
Current for the.
It might not matter, like 427.9 is non-discretionary, the board shall suspend. And it's not just, it's also the penalties, you know, collection of taxes, penalties, interest, costs, et cetera. The question is, though, in that suspension, should you also be abating those penalties? Because if that answer is yes, you don't want to suspend it, then we have to still answer that question whenever those taxes and penalties have to be paid. I mean, at some point, that property gets sold and the person passes away, and then we still have this account with 1,500 in penalties that we don't know what we're doing with. That's why I'm suggesting you should address it. You don't have to. You could just say, doesn't matter, we can answer that question in 10 years when it comes up. But as of right now, I think you have to suspend. But if it's not a question that has to be dealt with in a week, I'd say
Those
table it for a week.
penalties accrued during suspension, or was it just when it
No.
was dropped?
When they're
Just a-
dropped, and
just
that's
a-
what happened, that's why there's penalties, because it was dropped.
Okay.
So if it's our fault somehow, ours being the, you know, county paperwork, SSI, I mean, if it's a government problem, whether that was feds, state, or county, I would suggest you ought to just abate the penalties. If it's their fault because they didn't do anything, well, then paperwork's kind of important.
So we'll table that this week.
That's
Look
if it's
into it a
not
little
something
deeper.
that has to be, when do they get new penalties?
I think June 3rd.
I don't see any reason why we couldn't kick it 1 week. We have one more meeting in May, and I can get an answer to you. And regardless, I would say no matter what, you are suspending everything next week. The only question is, are you also abating those penalties or not? That's the sort of something I need to look into.
Okay. Questions?
No, just to find out where the error came from.
That's what I want. I just think we ought to figure that out. Because, I mean, you don't have to know it. You could just say, we feel like abating it, and I don't care. That's perfectly fine.
It doesn't matter to me. I've never seen the word delayed before. And I didn't know that it was dropped somehow.
I don't know that we've ever abated,
We've never abated. We've
Well,
suspended.
I wouldn't suggest that you're abating taxes. I'm only suggesting if the penalty was caused by a government error, it feels unfair to me that the property owner gets nailed $1,500 in penalties. I don't care about their taxes, but the penalties. If the suspension was dropped because the property owner didn't do something they were supposed to, then I think it's your call what you do.
Okay.
But I recommend just tabling it for a week and let me look into
Okay.
it.
Any questions? We done? We'll move on to the next one. Thank you for coming up.
I wanted an extra project.
Okay, Debbie Redmond, Supervisor, Community Services, and Susan Watson, Director, Community Services. Discussion and/or decision to approve 2023 Pottawatomie County Housing Trust Fund Grant Agreement.
Okay, I'm gonna speak real quick and then I gotta leave by 10:30, so you're in good hands with Debbie. So we kept these separate. We don't come to you very often for general assistance, but the Housing Trust Fund Grant is something we received for the past couple of years, so we need to renew that. And then Debbie had a few changes in the GA manual, so.
Okay,
So for the Housing Trust Fund, it's a grant that was awarded through the Pottawatomie County Housing Trust Fund Trust. And it's the fourth year that we've received it. It'll begin in December of this year, going until November of next year for $30,227. And it'll be for deposit, first month's rent, as well as application fees for renters.
Did we deplete that fund?
We do each year, yes. So, because the first year is for like 25,000, and then past years it's been for 20,000. Like currently we're in the 20,000, the third year in the 20,000, and we're working on it.
Okay, okay.
The reason it's a good thing for us is because we don't, through general assistance, we typically we don't pay first month's rent in order to help somebody kind of establish a new place to live. So that's why this has been a really good partnership, because they've been able to kick in the money for that piece.
And it's only for people that live inside Potawatomi County, so it's not for people moving outside from Omaha or other counties. It's like moving within Pot County.
Is there a time limit? I mean, do they have to live here a certain amount of time? To show the need?
Yeah.
Okay.
Is it just a one-time per person?
Typically, the grantees say that it can be used various years if need be. So if it is like, if someone were to call again the next year and be like, oh, I need help again, it'd be kind of questionable what's going on. We always look at what's the need, what's the reason why you're not able to pay, that type of thing, or you can maybe get your deposit money back, because typically it doesn't come back to us. Like, they don't do that, you know.
But it's an annual basis.
Yeah, but usually there are always new people.
Right.
New people.
Questions? Need a motion to approve?
So moved.
Okay,
Second?
I do have the signature sheet, if you want to sign it.
okay. Got a motion to approve and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone against? Motion carried. Okay, bring it on up here.
I need to sign?
No, Brian.
Brian needs to sign.
There we go. Okay. Thank you. Thanks for coming in, Susan.
So we've got the GA manual piece too. We've
That's
got
the
B.
second one.
Oh, okay.
Yep. That's the second.
Approve changes to the general assistant manual effective June 1st, 2023.
Correct. There are just some modifications, like the main couple of stipulations we changed in there were regards, well, the biggest one would be the increasing the amount as far as the rental assistance that we would provide out. As you know, like the cost of housing has gone up, unfortunately, so last time we increased it was several years ago. And so we would just ask that we have 3 main programs. One of them is kind of an ongoing program called the Interim Disability Program. It's for folks that are applying for Social Security that they have 0 income, so we're paying their rent, utilities while they're going through that Social Security process. And so that would be asked for the rent amount to go from $600 to $700 a month. And, you know, keep in mind with that program, that's one that if they get approved, then we can get reimbursed for the amount of the rent that we paid out from the Social Security office through the SSI back pay. So a lot of times we get that funds back. And also with that program, a lot of our ongoing folks that we paid for, that I see each month that we pay for, like they live over at Rico Towers, so really their rent's $50 anyways, but there are people that do live in, you know, other areas and they have utilities as well too.
So that can be an ongoing monthly
Yeah.
deal for,
Yeah, whether
A while.
for Social Security.
okay,
Yeah, so there's some folks that, you know, Social Security takes a while, so I've seen for a while. So
Okay.
that's the one from 600 to 700, and then we have a one-time assistance program to where like if someone were to have like a one-time circumstance, like they typically can't pay their rent, but like their car broke down or they were sick and they didn't have sick leave, that type of thing to kind of help this one time to ask for the rent amount to go from 400 to 500. Again, rent costs, everything goes up. That program, it's not meant to be like cover the entire part of the rent. You know, usually it's like, well, you gotta get some of it covered on your own type of thing, but at least it helps out a little bit more. So that's again from 400 to 500. And then the back to work program, that's one for people that they don't have any income at all in the household. And essentially we have to know that the next month they're gonna, for the one-time assistance program, we have to know that next month they should be able to take care of their rent on their own. For folks that don't have any kind of income source and if they're able to work, we ask that they do pursue that. And so part of that is then doing community volunteer work as well as putting in job applications and providing verification of that. And then for that program, again, the rent, we'd ask to go from 400 to 500 for the part of the assistance then.
Okay.
And that program could last up to 3 months, as long as they complete the requirements. So that's the biggest factor of it as far as the rent costs, asking for that to increase. The other part, we took out a section in regards to individuals receiving FIP benefits. Before we had a stipulation in there stating that if they did receive or were eligible to receive FIP benefits, that's a family investment program through DHS, so a person that has children in the household, if they qualify for that program beforehand, I said you need to follow those program guidelines through DHS and do what you need to qualify for that program. And we went with that for quite a while. Unfortunately, we see that DHS, the program guideline, the amount that they typically receive is $361, and that has not increased in I don't know how many years. And so we just thought, unfortunately, again, with the raising costs of housing, that even if a person, sometimes that doesn't cover things essentially. So instead of excluding those individuals completely, we would say, okay, as long as you still qualify for the other programs, we're not going to say you're excluded from even be eligible because you're receiving FIP benefits or should be able to receive FIP benefits. Those are the main stipulations in there.
What does it do to your budget?
Say the what?
Those increase in?
We've been good with the budget like this. I didn't print the thing off, but like we have plenty left over. I know that much for that. For any kind of increases through the interim disability and as well as the one-time assistance. And unfortunately, not a whole lot of people engage with the back to work program. I don't know if because stipulations we ask them to complete or whatnot, but we do have funds and we have consistently had funds in those programs in the past years.
Did any income limitations change for?
No, like we still have it as 100%. Federal poverty guideline level for the one time in the back to work program, and the interim disability program, that doesn't, for that program the person has to have zero income, so that hasn't changed.
Then the one, because I think I seen you guys do it a couple times this year, was the funeral home deal.
Yeah, we don't do that too often just because for that program.
Thanks, Suzanne.
Thank you. It's meant to be for individuals that are indigent homeless, so homeless in Potawatomi County.
Right.
So there hasn't been too many, there have been some. Previously, it had been much more open as far as paying for, a lot of people, regardless of whatnot. And we just, for, I don't know how many years ago we did it, but we've brought it back to the basic Iowa code, stating that we pay for individuals that were homeless in Potawatomi County. And the amount that we pay is only $400.
Right, I've seen it, I think 3 or 4 this year. Which is there? Will the funeral home do for that?
They make do with it. I know sometimes they end up writing off things, but sometimes, like if they can get connected with a family member, then they try to get them to do some part of it. But I think it was a couple years ago that I contacted different funeral homes to see if they'd look at, do they want us to change that or anything? And it says sometimes it's easier for them to deal directly with the family, or else to just kind of, if they qualify, then yeah, they'll do what they need to do with that amount. They indicate like, oh, we really want this changed, that type of thing.
Okay, thank you.
Do most of them get cremated at that?
I think so.
Okay. I just always wondered about that. Any more questions? Looking for a motion to approve.
I will make the motion to approve the changes to the General Assistance Manual effective June 1, 2023.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve changes. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone against? Motion carried.
This signature page, do you guys? want
Bring 'em up.
to Stick with you, I know
We'll do
that's
it.
for Jeff's signature too, so.
Save you a trip back over here, huh?
We'll
Put it in our box,
probably
because he
leave
has
it,
to.
we'll leave it with Jeanette. If you need Jeff's signature, she'll get it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Debbie.
Yeah, Jeff ain't here.
Yeah,
Oh,
we can vote on it.
there you go. John Rasmussen, engineer, discussion and or decision to approve and authorize board to sign resolution 42-2023 to award contract for project number FM-CO78, parentheses 208-55-78 to Iowa Civil Contracting Incorporated in the amount of $1,151,474.22 and authorize the county engineer to sign the contract. Wow.
All right. This was a FM's farm to market, so it was a DOT letting last week. This is G30 paving from the River Bridge into Highway 59.
That's that goofy corner.
The goofy corner, we're not fixing the goofy corner at the intersection now.
Gonna leave it be.
We could get to agreement with the DOT and the road needed work, so we'll continue to work with the DOT to see if we can figure out a better intersection at some point. But this gets us past the railroad tracks and the elevator and some of those other problems we're fighting.
And that's gonna be cement, John?
It's to be concrete, yes.
Yeah. Or concrete, I'm sorry.
Be the first, yeah. We haven't done concrete since we done Menards and Shelby, I guess.
We pass that to Melvin. Jeff is not here, so.
Nishnabotna River Bridge on G30, east Highway 59. Goes right by Botna Mid Park there.
Oh, you're in Hancock area.
Hancock, yes.
Those are all state funds, John.
Yes.
And how long are we gonna have that road closed?
Oh.
Best case scenario.
We're gonna work to avoid harvest there, so when we get the contract done, I can start talking to the contractor about dates and construction period. If it looks like it's gonna go late, I'll probably try to push it till next spring, if the contractor's willing to work with me on that. But, yeah, when we let through the DOT, they don't let us pick construction dates, so that's selected for us, then I can change order things after that.
But the time frame, 60 days, 90 days?
It's probably a 90-day project.
Okay.
Really depends what's under there once we get into it, how wet it is. But concrete's gonna be a little slower for us, for sure.
Yeah. I just worry about the locker.
Yeah, we'll have to maintain
You worry
access.
about what, Susan?
Gress's locker. It's right there in that stretch of
Mhm.
road, and they'll have to come up with another entrance or.
We'll have to maintain access to everybody in there, so we'll have to figure it out.
Have you had this bidder before?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand what you said.
The bidder?
We haven't worked with them. They were a subcontractor when it did Railroad Highway. They did the, diamond grinding on Railroad Highway and some dowel bar retrofit north of Neola.
Okay.
So they've done some DOT work in the county, but we haven't worked with them as a prime contractor yet. I've seen them around, I guess. Part of the resolution to have authorized me to sign, that's really about, it's a digital signature and it takes a couple weeks to set you up, then when you change chairmans next year, I have to go through it all. So the DOT allows you to authorize me to do that by resolution, so that's why it's a resolution with that extra
We
wording.
wouldn't have any increase in price if we pushed it to next spring.
No, I don't think it'll increase price. I mean, we kind of struggle with letting dates. We're letting kind of late in the year. Most contractors have work, so that hasn't helped us in our bidding, but
Okay.
we'll work it out to avoid harvest there as much as possible.
Okay, John,
It's gonna be a
thank
big
you.
deal.
Okay, any more questions? Need a motion to approve or?
I'll make the motion to approve and authorize the board to sign resolution number 42-2023.
Second.
Melvin?
Chairman Shay,
Aye.
Supervisors Belt,
Aye.
Wickman, Miller.
Aye.
John, this next one is the culvert in Carson.
Yes,
You got one bid on that, right?
right.
Okay, next up, award contract and authorize chairman to sign contract and bond for project L 2023, RC 78-73-78 to Nelson and Rock Contracting Incorporated of Ottawa, Iowa, in the amount of $331,089.25.
I think last week, John, you mentioned that the estimate on that was 209,000.
Correct.
After you went through it, did you find out what the big variance was?
I think, well, inflation hurts us, first of all, in our estimating, because we're using historic prices, I guess, and we don't really put a inflationary number on it. So that brings our estimate down, but I think we're just paying probably a premium for a, out-of-town contractor to make it worthwhile to come in. It is quite a bit higher than the estimate, but at the same time, it's kind of a small project. Most of my projects are in the multi-millions, and it makes sense for people to come for them, and these smaller ones, I think, are just gonna be higher based on the cost of bringing somebody to town to do it. So if it had been a different material, I might have considered a county crew on it, but it would really be disruptive to our plans this summer to try to do that ourselves.
Any understanding why we only received one bid on it?
Too small of a project. I think I had one contractor who wanted to do a cast in place, and, early on, we were worried about a cast in place taking more time. They assured me they wouldn't, and I said, they can still bid this project and try to do a value engineering to change it, I guess, but they didn't bid. I think it's just the size of the project, and precast right now is really hard to get. I'm already talking to this contractor, he doesn't think he can get this concrete pipe delivered until this fall, so there's lots of concerns on those delivery dates as well, so.
What kind of timing is this project? How
Thought
long?
it should be about a month on this one, but, we're not gonna let them tear the road out until all the materials are there to do the work sort of thing, so. There's some storm sewer work in there that makes it a little more complicated than a normal pipe, I guess, but it should go pretty quick, but just getting materials delivered is gonna be an issue.
Okay. Any more questions?
What's your recommendation, John?
I recommend to approve it, and I know it's high. Glad it's a small project and high, it doesn't hurt as much as a big project and high. I'd like to move forward and get the work done.
How long have we been working on this project?
It's been talked about for quite a while, because some original discussions on paving 400th, and once we got to looking at that, we did some more inspection on this pipe and realized that the rebar in the floor of the culvert are exposed, and it's in really poor shape, so there's no point of doing anything on the road until you get the culvert replaced, so.
Like we've been working on it for 10 years or better.
It's been a while.
It does feel that way sometimes, yes.
Okay,
Well, based upon your recommendation, I'll make the motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Miller, second by Belt to approve. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carried, John. Okay, next up, Becky Linehan, Finance and Tax Officer, Auditor's Office. Discussion and/or decision to approve and authorize board to sign Resolution 38/2023 entitled Resolution for Transfer from Lost Secondary Roads Fund to Secondary Roads Fund.
And this is just John's annual transfer from the lost fund to secondary roads. It's not a reimbursement. He can only use these funds for capital improvement projects.
How much of these dollars, John, would you guess will be going for your building?
None of those.
None of this?
None. So what happens is those can only be used for capital improvements, and we talked to the state auditor years ago. I write a memo on the materials cost that we buy. So like we buy rock or steel, that counts as capital improvements for the state auditor. Then I send her a memo saying what we spent the money on, and you guys make the transfer. So I can't show any labor, those funds can't be used for labor, but they are for material costs.
We're paying for your building out of local option sales tax funds.
Right, so you're transferring out of Fund 35. I maintain a balance in Fund 35, so I keep a year in advance payment. So there's a balance there for next year's payment already, then I transfer the rest of the money into a secondary road fund.
I'll make the
Well,
motion
it's been
to
doing
approve.
really good this year too, so it helps.
Okay.
Motion to approve Resolution 38/2023.
Second.
Melvin.
Chairman Shay,
Aye.
Supervisors Belt,
Aye.
Wickman. Aye. Miller.
Aye.
Okay. Becky Linehan, Finance and Tax Officer, Auditor's Office. Discussion and/or decision to approve and authorize the board to sign Resolution 41/2023 entitled Resolution for Transfer from Hitchcock Nature Area Fund to County Conservation Land Acquisition Fund.
This is just transferring the balance that's in that Hitchcock Nature Area Fund, trying to do some housekeeping before year end and get rid of these funds that have not been used for a long time. Spoke with Mark and he said he'd like it transferred into the Fund 27. So that's,
437.22.
right, and there will be another one, June 6th for another fund that he has, but that's an interest-bearing fund, so we can't do it till we get all the interest in there,
Okay.
which is only a couple dollars, but we don't wanna
You don't
transfer
wanna
a
do it
dollar or
twice.
two, so.
Nope.
Yeah,
Every little bit helps.
that'll be on next, June 6th.
So then that fund will be closed out.
Yeah, it'll be zeroed out, yeah. Won't be
Okay.
anything in it.
And he won't use it anymore, right?
Right.
Motion to approve Resolution 41/2023.
Second.
Melvin, would you do a roll call?
Chairman Shay,
Aye.
Supervisors Belt,
Aye.
Wickman. Aye. Miller.
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Becky, thanks a lot.
What's that,
Living lust.
I just said that we can't do it till next month.
Oh, that one, okay.
Hey
That's the one,
Becky,
okay.
Becky, you guys, you're gonna have to probably work something different for posting stuff in the newspaper here after June.
Susan sent me an email yesterday and let me know that, so I don't think it's gonna affect a huge amount because we already have to send them way early for the rural papers, so.
Okay,
It's a 3-day-a-week paper now.
right.
Yeah, or the rurals are once a week, so,
Nonpareil's going that way.
which we've always had to send them out earlier anyway, so I think we'll be okay.
Newspapers are going away
I
throughout the
don't-
country.
What's gonna happen? We're gonna end up posting stuff online, I'm guessing.
I don't know, they'll have to change the code or something, won't they?
I think they're close, I think, but they didn't get it done.
Honestly, it's sort of a silly antiquated code anymore anyway. I mean, vast majority of people don't get their information out of a paper newspaper, but, you know.
I'm the exception.
So am I.
I read the obituary every day. I'm not in it. I'm happy. I'm involved.
They're not even putting those in
Good
there
day.
anymore.
It's a good day, I can move forward. Okay, next up, discussion under decision on approving list of compensation condemnation commission for 2023. That was a real fun little deal.
Well, and I was trying to participate and the wheels were moving too fast. I contacted several people over the weekend and they haven't, or by the time they responded back, we already had spots filled.
Okay.
So do we put them on a wait list then?
Well, I'd like to know, I'd like to put a process in place so that we're not scrambling to do this again next year. Maybe the 1st of May, we have a trigger that we need to contact all of these people and solicit from additions. We can have more than 28 on the list. We just have to have equal amounts in all of the categories. And if we have a process in place, we can stay ahead of it. We make a regular approval the 1st of June, the 15th of May, or whatever it is, but we just put a process in place.
Maybe we'll put that on the calendar.
It should be something that we do in our first meeting of the year.
No, I disagree, because you're electing new supervisors in that first meeting, and you need them to give them a chance to contact some people to contribute to the list.
Well, it's not a matter of changing out people all the time. It's a matter of finding people who want to serve.
Right, and people, their circumstances change, they retired, they're no longer an active real estate agent, they're no longer an active banker.
That
They
could
still
be-
have the knowledge, but
That process could be in January, or in December, and we can do it. It doesn't matter to me what time you want to do it, I don't really care.
I don't either, as long as we have a consistent date for doing it, so that,
This is the first time that I ever recall where this commission will be used.
well, and if the CO2 pipeline goes through and that Iowa utilities bill
yes.
is relying on eminent domain, it could come into play more frequently.
Yeah, it's certainly the first time we've used them, but I think the city may have done some condemnation before. Yeah, so.
Maybe we do it. Maybe December is the time to do it.
You know what,
I can tell you, legally, you can do it whenever you want. It just says annually, it doesn't say when. The benefit of this deal is obviously everybody gets time, even for the new people, to get new people in. The benefit of doing it at the organizational meeting is you already have, like, there's just things that you do every January at the organizational meeting. And it's easier to slip through the cracks in May, where it's probably not as easy if you just know it's on your list in January. So as long as the board feels comfortable, any date legally is fine, as long as you feel comfortable it's not gonna slip through the cracks. Because obviously it did, because that was me as I'm sitting here trying to draft up my application for this, Dumfries Avenue eminent domain. And I have to send off the notice to the chief judge. And I'm like, okay, well, where is that commissioner's list? Oh, it doesn't exist, at least as of now.
well, we started working on it, last fall.
There was.
We just,
It just never got,
we just never,
it never got formalized,
no,
Well, and it's supposed to be publicized as well.
so.
that,
When it's not the super popular commission probably to sit on, frankly, although honestly, it really shouldn't be. People are like, they're not the ones deciding whether or not the land gets taken. That public purpose issue is a court issue. The issue for them is just what is a fair price for the land that is to be taken. And I think some people feel like, I don't want to be the one telling my farmer buddies that I'm taking their land. And I'm like, you're not involved in that. You're the one making sure that they get paid a fair amount. I mean, that's really what the condemnation compensation commission is. That's what they do.
there's some that still won't do it.
I know. You're like, good, thank you, because you're like, we try to get people on that will be real cheap. So we appreciate your lack of willing to service, because it'll cost us less money when we just get,
So, you've never been through one of these either, right, Matt?
Whatever you want
This
to do.
is totally new for me. I'm learning the process as I go.
Jeanette, put it on the.
DOT has been very helpful. They sent me their eminent domain manual, and that's been, there's good forms there, there's good information, so, I mean, they obviously have to deal with this stuff statewide, so they've been very helpful with stuff, so. I'm ready to roll pretty much when I get, the list of commissioners.
And the judge will select how many? 6. An even number.
It's weird. And why not 8? I mean, if you're making sure that there have to be 4 of, 1/4 of every category, and then you pick
How many categories are there? 4?
4.
Four categories?
1/4 had to be owner-operators of agricultural land, 1/4 city owners, 1/4 licensed brokers or realtors, real estate agents or brokers, and then 1/4 business. People who have knowledge of land values or property values as a result of their business, such as appraisers, bankers, et cetera. So not just anybody. I mean, we call it the business person category, but it's really, they have to supposedly have some knowledge of that property values, not just like, hi, I run the Dairy Queen or something. I mean, you've got to show that they know something about property values.
From speaking from experience with being newly elected in January and getting a whole lot of things thrown at you at that first meeting for approval, it would be difficult to approve a list of people that you haven't had time to evaluate or to add to.
Well,
So,
it might be a good time to, in January, just to review the list and see, is it full, are there vacancies? And, just to confirm that those that are on it are willing to stay.
That's not a bad option. You could have a review of puts it into your mind for approval in February or March, something along those lines.
well, and budget is very time consuming in that first quarter.
Also true.
So if we do it in April or May when things have slowed down,
I have no
I like
dog
the-
in whatever, as long as the board remembers, because like I said, I've never even known, since I've never used it, that's never come to my attention, only because now I'm using it, I'm like, oh, we gotta do that anyway.
the next 3 years we'll remember.
They're supposed to pick a grand jury every year. I haven't done that for several years. The judge just quit drawing them. They're like, if you need one, let us know, and we'll get one selected. I'm like, okay. And you're supposed to pick one every year, but it's whatever. So, I think sometimes it's with boards like this, it is sort of, if you don't use it, whatever. But this is a tough one only because when it comes up, you need that answer. And it's sort of better if you can get the answer. You don't want it to look like we are appointing people specifically to hear this one particular dispute. And unfortunately, the timing of this, it just is what it is. When you have a regular date, then it's just, you get what you get.
Well, I think it was important to get it to you because I think our plan was still to try to get it done this fall, right? And I don't want that to slow us down.
Yeah, I can get the application done pretty quickly, other than just bear in mind, I'm still dealing with board review till the end of the month. So I've got 5 more, I think, days with them. So.
Okay. Have Jeanette put it on, please.
Let's make it formal here.
Okay.
So I'll make the motion to approve the Compensation Condemnation Commission, with updating it from, in our packet, it says 2022, so we'll update the date on that to 2023. With the recommendation that we renew annually on May 1st, or
I like that.
in May. That gives us time to respond.
Okay,
Second.
all right. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried.
What do you see 2022 as, Susan?
At the very top in the header, Compensation Condemnation Commission - 2022. So it just needs to be updated to 2023 so that we know that it's being done annually.
Okay, committee appointments. Susan?
I attended the 28E board meeting at Quaker Stake last week where Don Ulig announced his resignation after 30 years. He's willing to work with the board on helping train his successor. And Jana Limerick was at the meeting and she is going to help with that hiring process. And they appointed 3 members to select the new, or to do the interviews for the new director. And basically, that was the only thing I did.
Okay.
Those 3 would be 3 supervisors from 3 different counties.
They've got Mills, Cass, and Pot County, just because they're all kind of located closer together and can get together for interviews or.
So are you on the interview team?
No, because Jeff is the primary for Pot County.
Is he aware of that?
Yes, he was at the meeting. I went to the meeting because I wasn't sure if he would make it or not, and he was there and
Awesome.
Okay. We
So
have the
does he have
levy.
he has a second over there, right? Someone that's kind of second in command?
yes.
Stacy and who's the other gal I met? But they were pretty much the clerical
Oh,
staff.
okay.
And Patty was, and she did interview the job years ago in Richmond.
Oh, that's right, Patty.
And then she's moved on.
Okay,
So I don't know if there's anybody in-house
okay.
or not.
Okay, we have the district, or the levy district meeting in here Tuesday, and then Thursday I had a Zoom meeting. I went to the ribbon cutting for First Avenue Trail,
Cochrane Park.
and then met the National Trails guy, that Kevin Bell, met him one day and talked to him about our situation on the county trails. And we did not make the evening Cochrane Park thing. I just done it during the day, so. And then went down to EMA. Did everybody go see their new truck by chance? They had a open house down there. I went down and seen that. That was a pretty neat situation, so.
Get that, where was that at?
Down at the fire department, down by the, Google,
Huh,
South 11th.
I didn't get that notice either.
It was in Doug's daily recap.
huh,
Or
okay.
Yeah,
it wasn't well called out, but it was within that document.
correct.
Okay, have to get down and see it.
Okay,
The only thing I had was, what was it, a DHS, not DHS,
DCAT.
DCAT meeting, Zoom meeting,
okay.
on some contracts for.
Are you going to come tomorrow, Susan, to the PFA meeting?
Yes, I'm planning to.
Okay.
Is that in Burr Oak?
Yeah.
Tim?
I'll move to adjourn.
Just adjourn the meeting, Chairman.
Okay.
You're in charge.
Adjourn. Okay.
You must have heard your name.
I didn't, yeah, I tried to get over here before you guys finished. Is there anything I can help answer for you in regards to